football. Also today, On 3 had a story about tampering. This is not breaking news. Anonymous staffers, collectives, and agents sound off on tampering in college football. Quote, I don't know anybody that doesn't. Group of 5 teams are doing it on shitty group of 5 teams. If you're not tampering, you're putting your program and university at a disadvantage to win games, which pretty much states what Craig said about college football. It has never really changed.
And then they justify the cheating by, well, everybody's cheating.
Yeah.
And then so it just goes in a circle and it never gets broken. And so everybody just cheats. And then if you're not, you're the bad guy somehow. You're the idiot that's going to get fired because you're not cheating. That's how backwards this is, but it's also, part of the entertainment value, I guess, for some over the years, and some of the, the messiness of college football. That's what makes it college football. So I don't think anybody's wanting to, just completely strip those things away. But yeah, everybody's doing it, so we've got to do it too. Or if you don't do it, you get fired. If you don't do the wrong thing, you might get fired. Like, are we backwards? Yeah, I think that we might be. Yeah, that the cheating actually is the wrong thing to not do. So in line with what we were just talking about, if you get found tampering, there's supposed to be repercussions for that. It might be lost scholarships. It might be monetary fines. I don't know if those will be like when they penalize an NBA team or NFL team and it's like $50,000, which, basically the owner pulls out of his dirty sock and hands over, or if it will be something substantial that actually hits these schools and makes them feel it, because that's where you would really get them. Like, fine them, and I know you can't fine them $1 million for, like, tampering, but that's how you would stop it, would be to do things like that. But, some fine of some sort that at least makes them have to cut a check and part with that precious money. I think that would dissuade people as well. So that's part of what's been talked about, being under this police umbrella. And so I'm all for that. And I know it's going to be hard to stop, but I think if you at least give a Jeff Traylor an outlet to go to say, like, here's Pitt or Kansas or somebody, and they're
Texas.
Clearly Texas. If they're coming out of, here they are, here's the DMs and whatever. If there's something that can be done about that, I think that would be great. Why would you not want that, by the way, either? Like, I've seen that argument of like, well, it's part of the deal. It's like, yeah, but why would you not want it above board? Oh, I wonder why you wouldn't want it above board. Probably because you benefit from being under board more often than not,
And what they need to do is they need to put the onus on the athletic directors and the head coaches, because a lot of it is, if Smokey's the head coach and you and I are the coordinators, and then even us, we can just keep pushing it down the line of, hey, I don't want to know about it. Like, just have the kid DM me when he's ready, and then, or just let me know. And then I get a call from somebody that's like, hey, the Eagle has landed, and then I'm like, oh, good. Let me contact Trey Moore and see if he wants to come to Texas. I'm using that as an example because, like,
but if you get caught cheating in this environment of college sports, you're a freaking idiot.
Well, yeah, yes, but no. My point being is that,
did you know that most calorie deficit calculators don't work? My dietitian recommended the Lasta to me, and it turned out to be the only one that got my calorie deficit right. Thanks to it, I lost 14 pounds in 1 week. Ready to kickstart your journey to healthy weight loss? Calculate your ideal calorie deficit using the Lasta app right now.
There's plausible deniability between the head coach and intermediaries right now. You need to make it so that even if there's plausible deniability, they have to set it up to where, like, look, nobody is tampering. Don't do it, because it's not worth it for us to do this. There are so many avenues for us to get players that are a little bit maybe harder than just going to a kid or his agent. But if anybody gets caught with us tampering or this kid, then we're all getting punished, so it's not worth it. They have to make sure.
To put a bow on this part of it, what should be the penalty? The player who goes from one school to the next, should he not be able to play for that school? Should the coach be fined? Should you lose the scholarship? What would be something that would matter?
I don't know. I haven't spent any time really reflecting on it. I mean, that's for them to figure out. That's their job now. I think, monetarily, only some schools will feel it as much as as much as you intend for it to. I don't know that, fining Texas $500,000 really does much to them. I think they'll move on from that, or Ohio State. I think they'll eat that if that means they get the 4-star wide receiver. So I think you've got to, make it severe enough to where they don't do it again. But I don't know what that would entail. I'm sure, money will be part of it, but I'm not sure what kind of legal grounds you run into when you start to say, oh, well, the player can't play there. Well, then is that a lawsuit now coming your way? Probably. So is that going to – and then the lawsuit's not going to fast track to where it's going to happen in enough time for that guy's last year of eligibility or whatever. So that's where the lawyers who get paid the big money to figure these things out, they can figure that part of it out and how to best avoid further lawsuits, although that's something the NCAA has been terrible at over the years. So maybe this new renamed, revamped – wing will be better at that, but I don't know what legally is possible to be able to even do. But if it's an assistant coach, which clearly they're going to avoid that, like Paul's referring to, there's a middleman. It's Uncle Leo is like the guy who's not technically with Texas Tech, but he's you can't prove it on his cell phone bill, but he's got a burner probably, and he's the the in between. So I don't know how you stamp all that out.
That's the thing is you need whatever the penalty for getting caught has to be so severe that you go to your staff and say nothing. You have to make sure you send it out to the community that says nothing. That's where I get confused is how you're going to do this, because I do believe that coaches love this. They love I didn't know that was going on. Sure, I benefit from it, but they love blissful ignorance.
Yeah, but that doesn't work as much anymore.
No, it doesn't. But they
used to.
But if you're getting paid $12 million a year, for some reason, blissful ignorance still works a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, well, I mean, it was, I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm appalled that I've now found out, blah, 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 blah. That was the whole thing with Connor Stallions that. And I know that's not tampering, but that was the thing that Michigan decided to do, right? And that's kind of the college go-to of well, we had no idea that he was doing this. We just thought he was that damn good. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
Some kind of savant that you stumbled onto that just happens to have undying love for your university and travels around? No. So with tampering, it would be that too. It's look, hey, all of a sudden – the best quarterback in the country just decided he wanted to come here. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth.
You could have a third party. You could have Uncle Leo. You could have an agent or whatever. But at least from the article, it appears they say that they're serious about cracking down. To me, the biggest penalty, giving up a scholarship hurts. The biggest penalty will never be the case now because of how much money that networks have put into these games. By saying so-and-so, let's say Tennessee, cannot be on TV anymore. They're not going to do that because that hurts the product, that hurts the conference, and that hurts the TV networks because they want a name like Tennessee to be on television. When you do that, or no bowl games, then you're cutting off part of someone's body part.
I mean, I at least admire that they're moving forward and putting this out there. I think, it's another Ross article, so you assume that some of this is kind of like checking the temperature for the folks in charge and just kind of seeing what the reactions are, much like the playoff proposal a couple weeks ago, and everybody went insane over that, and then that's dead in the water now. They're talking about it, but it's, the conversation came and went, and I don't think this one will spark nearly as much of a conversation because I don't think it's as interesting as the playoff to most people, but it is definitely interesting if you've been following college football long enough and you've seen the inconsistencies and how the NCAA has doled out punishments. You've seen the complete lack of punishments in many cases. You've seen rightful punishments only to get rejected because of lawsuits. You've just seen a lot of just the Wild Wild West thing, which I felt like that got so overused after COVID. We just heard that for so long, and then NIL and all that. And it was a good phrase to use because that's very much how it felt. But it's time to move on to modern times now. It's time for the game to move on from the Wild Wild West. And we've had our fun. Everybody ran around town with their pistols out, firing them in the air. But it's now it's time to actually have a little bit of law and order so that if you want to be professional, it's time to act like a professional business. And so I'm all for some ruling, party being in charge of doling this out so long as it's actually on the up and up and not just some enforcement arm in name mostly, like the NCAA was. So we'll see where this goes. But there's a lot of interesting details, like in terms of they might find a school $1 million. And you know what? I think even, I kind of said that about Texas or an A&M or whoever. Yeah, they've got a lot of money. Doesn't mean they want to part with $1 million over tampering with a recruit. There's also NIL aspects to this as far as making sure there's not third parties that are going in and inflating what a guy's actually making, as far as going over the cap that has been set, and then there's penalties should you do that, like a loss of scholarships or like even being fined like maybe 3 times the amount of money that they, quote-unquote, I guess, went over said cap. So I think those would be good deterrents, and I'll wait and see how those are actually applied, but I'm glad we're getting somewhere, it feels like, in the midst of all of the uncertainty.